Greetings everyone, it is me, the Artie Dans. Welcome to what is hope will be the first of many of these types of videos. This is a full audio commentary of a Chinese horror movie. You and me together are going to watch this 2015 Chinese horror movie called, it's got a very cool title by the way, Admission by Guts. Now, tell me that is not an awesome title for a movie. And as you can see in the background, the opening credits are starting to play. When the movie begins, I will go a little bit wider with the screen size. Now, you're going to hear this a lot. If this becomes a regular series, you're going to hear me explain this a lot. Chinese horror movies, have a couple of rules when it comes to them. And they are that they can't have any supernatural elements, that they can't have any extreme violence, no ghosts, no sex. And usually there are three ways to end a Chinese horror movie. It will either be someone in a mask or pretending to be someone else. It'll either be a hallucination or someone is on drugs and they will just wake up. Could be a dream. Or it could just be a whole bunch of people playing a practical joke. That usually, they're the three main ways Chinese horror movies end. So I've seen this movie before. This is Admission by Guts. So I know how it ends, and it is one of those three endings. But I think this is not a bad film. I actually enjoyed this the first time I watched it, and there is another video on my channel about this. I did a bit of a review about this movie, so I do kind of enjoy it. I'm actually a sucker for horror movies, regardless of where they're from, set in cinemas. And this one is set almost entirely in a cinema. So the story with this one, actually firstly, before I get into the story, how I came across this movie is a great friend of the channel, someone who posts a lot of regular comments, watched another video of mine about Haunted Cinema, another Chinese horror film from the company Film Moon, which unfortunately, I've checked, we cannot do a movie commentary about, so that's a bit of a shame. I think that one's a lot of fun, and I would have loved to have done that. But he watched it and then left a comment and said, well, gee, this movie reminds me a hell of a lot of this movie called Admission by Guts. So I thought, I better check this movie out. So you know who you are, and you also know that I've had a lot of trouble pronouncing your username, so I do apologize. So this one goes out to you. This is a recommendation for you, and I hope you're watching this. And one day, I hope to do these live, and so you and I can have a lot more fun with some live chatting. But in the meantime, we're going to do these pre-recorded. So this is Admission by Guts. So the story of this one is that there are 8 people, if I remember correctly, we'll find out shortly, who are selected to attend a special midnight screening of a brand new horror movie that pretty much no one's ever heard of. And they turn up to this derelict looking cinema. You'll see when the movie starts, this derelict looking cinema. We're just about to go a little bit wider on our screen now as the movie kicks in. And this is the cinema that it is set in. And as you can see, there's already a bit of dicey special effects going on here. And that is the movie. That poster there is the movie that they are set to watch that particular evening. This is the, I can't remember if this guy's a security guard or the cinema manager. No, this is the security guard here. Stacking up what looks to be Jenga blocks. And drinking beer on the job. What better? What a better way to work. Just watch a little bit of the film. So as you can see, they're in the cinema. And they're watching a movie about the cinema. Very art house, isn't it? Very arty-farty. And they're completely engaged in this film. The people here are not the people that the whole movie is based on. This is another separate incident, this particular bit. So anyway, the story is that, these 8 people turn up to this midnight screening of this movie. And, things start to happen. And later on, a truth is revealed. this, it's just the typical. It's not even Asian. It's the typical Chinese thing. Now, if you can't read this, according to the news on April 17, 2014, 5 audience and 2 staff went missing in a particular cinema. That's what that said. And there's our title, Admission by Guts. The movie listing for this film on Douban, which is a Chinese movie website that lists kind of all of the pretty much every movie. You can find information about every movie from every country, with the exception of the movie Detention from Taiwan. That's scrubbed off. I don't think what's happening what you think is happening, even though the subtitles are certainly alluding to that. Oh, I think it is. I think there were people shagging on that bed. Oh, look at that. They were shagging. The rating for this movie is low. It's 2.9 out of 10, which Chinese audience is extremely critical and extremely vicious when it comes to local Chinese horror movies, and they are brutal when it comes to the scores. And if you read the comments, they're full on nasty. So anyway, that's one of the first guys that we meet. He's one that will be in the cinema this evening. Now, this poor girl, this poor chubby girl, she loves her snacks, and she's obviously going to get a sore back if she's going to be wheeling around a baby-sized trolley like that. I actually kind of feel bad for the actress who played her, because she hardly gets any screen time, which you'll see later on in the film. She completely gets kind of ignored. Here we are. We're seeing the next couple. Now, these two are very interesting because she's blind, and he narrates everything that happens to her. And he does it also in the film later on when they are in the cinema watching the movie together. This case, it's the woman. She is the candidate for this one. We can tell, starting off getting a tattoo. She's supposed to be a bad girl. So she's person number 7. There's this guy who is some kind of weird businessman. And he keeps looking for something. And then this guy's my favorite, a video pirate. They have invited a video pirate to the opening session of this movie. And believe it or not, he does exactly what you think he will do. And these two guys are also part of the... Now I'm trying to remember, is there 8 or 10? Pretty sure there's 8 of them that end up in this in the cinema. I believe this the chubby fat guy is I think he's some kind of, he pretends to be other people. That was his job. Auger. Don't know what an auger is. I think it's a gun. It's not a gun, Dan. It's not a gun. So this is hilarious. Now, they're all receiving a phone call. Well, obviously not at the same time, but they're all receiving a phone call to tell them, "Dear members, we are from the Horror Fans Club. You have successfully reserved the film Admission by Guts. Please enter the cinema at 11 and sit according to the ticket." So, allocated seating. Oh, God, I hate allocated seating in the cinema. One of the reasons I hate going to the cinema is stupid allocated seating. And, look, you'll recognize the cinema again from the start of the film. Great way to keep recycling footage. We've seen that shot previously 3 times now, and this shot twice. And look, it's actually just repeating more and more footage. Great way to pad out the length of your movie just by repeating the same footage. So from this point on, I believe we are in the cinema entirely. for the rest of the movie, including the ending. And it's a pretty shitty looking cinema. Let's not beat around the bush. It's not a kind of cinema I want to be stuck watching a film. In fact, I'm pretty sure, look at this guy setting up his camera to bootleg the movie. I mean, it's 2015. China, really? You got no rules about just doing this kind of stuff openly and brazenly in a cinema? And I do like the fact that he sees this guy and he thinks this guy is going to ruin my entire recording. I better tell him to shut the fuck up. That's the dude who was sleeping with the other woman. He thinks himself it's a bit of a Casanova. As I was saying, this cinema actually reminds me of the time I went to watch Dumb and Dumber in the cinema here in Australia back in what would have been 1995. And that was awful cinema. Sticky floors and uncomfortable chairs, and the kind of look at the way the seats are arranged, where you're only about 3 or 4 inches above the person in front of you, so you just know that everyone's head's just going to completely block your picture for the whole movie. But at least he's described to his partner, "Oh yeah, the cinema's deserted." But really, like, there's no one else there. Come on, guys. Start to have a bit of a, start to think with your brain a bit. No one's there. This should be a trigger. And he just made a funny line there. He says, "It must be such an interesting film that not even a blind person would miss it." Cheers. This is just water, by the way. Although, being a Chinese horror movie, I probably need something stronger than water. But for now, it's just water. So it is supposed to be a horror film that they are there to watch. Now, while we're waiting for the movie to continue introducing itself, just let's go over some of the cast. Now, from what I understand, no one in this movie is famous or has done anything worth of note. The director, his name is Ming Wang, and he's only ever done this film according to Douban, which is a bit of a shame because it's not actually, it's not actually a bad film according to my opinion. I think it was an enjoyable film. The guys who are the augur and his friend, the kind of baseball cap wearing dude, his name is Vincent, or Xiao Fan Lin. And he stopped, well, he's still making movies, but they're all kind of low budgety B-grady stuff. And it looks like the man has already clicked that, oh wow, the location of this movie seems awfully familiar. And there we go. They are clicking now. This is our cinema. I believe the chubby guy is called Yisi Yao. His name is Vinny. Vinny's a cool name. I like the name Vinny. He's still making movies too. Mostly seem to be costume dramas. So it's obviously just stuff to pay the bills for him. Just clicking on the rest of the actors' names for the movies. But this part's kind of cool. They're in the cinema, they're watching the movie on the screen, and they recognize themselves on the screen. Now you've got to think, hey, if this movie's pre-recorded, how can they have us? But no, we can see it's actually that group of people that were at the start of the film. It really does look like, and I can see why my friend, the commenter, I'm going to call him my friend, I can see why you thought this was a lot like Haunted Cinema 2, because those shots there where it's standing from the screen looking down at the audience at the projector, it looks a lot like a couple of the shots in Haunted Cinema Part 2. So this guy here, the business guy, his name's Zhong Wei Zhang. He actually has an IMDb profile, believe it or not. Nothing of any note that you would recognize, unless you're really into that kind of low-budget Chinese stuff. He has been in another Chinese horror film. Now, this is hilarious because Mr. Bootlegger needs him to shut up, because that's clearly going to ruin his copy of the movie. And these two have some great interactions a little bit later on in regards to what happens between them. It's a bit of a warning about, just shutting up while he's bootlegging film. But in all honesty, cinema etiquette, shut up when you're in the cinema. And certainly don't sit on your mobile phone throughout a movie, especially if it's a midnight screening of an advanced movie that everyone wants to watch. Well, maybe you would assume people there want to watch it. I did a video on another channel that I run about movies set in Asian cinema, or Asian horror movies set in cinemas. And there was a list of about 14 films. This was clearly one of them. And China seems to make a lot of movies set in cinemas. I suppose when you've got such a restrictive kind of government who says there's so many movies that you can make and what type of movies you can make, you tend to kind of, if someone has success with a film, you tend to kind of replicate it. Copy, I think is the word I'm looking for. Now, I always make mention to Haunted Cinema 2. Haunted Cinema 1 actually came out a year before this. So this movie is then clearly inspired by Haunted Cinema Part 1, which then probably took this movie and then turned itself into Haunted Cinema 2. So here's what I think is a bit of a side effect of just not low quality filmmaking, but just when you're trying to do effects in films, and in this case, not projecting an image on the screen that you can film themselves. So clearly in this bit, this is all digitally added over the top. What I'm finding hilarious about the footage of the movie that they're watching is it's so dusty and so scratched, which doesn't really make any sense about why a brand new film would have such poor quality print. But it is what it is. And I will admit, this movie does have a very long introduction. It takes a little while to get to anything. But like I said, I think the payoff's worth it. I think the movie isn't too bad. Probably would be better if I wasn't talking all the way through it. But hey. I hope you can read the subtitles so at least you can follow along with what's going on in the film. So her acute sense of hearing, because she is deaf, is making her feel like that she can hear a baby cry. And that is what is actually happening in the film. But she's thinking she can hear it in the actual hall of the cinema. There's those dust scratches. Oh, I just looks awful. And there's also these yellow splotches that keep coming up, and you just got to think, where is that? Where does that happen on film? I know everything's shot on digital now, but this would have been set back at the time when they were probably still projecting on film. So you might be wondering, there doesn't seem to be a lot of backstory happening for these characters. I mean, we know a couple. We know we've only been introduced very briefly to anyone. All of it gets explained a bit later on, who everyone is. And in fact, some of the audience members start working it out throughout the film, who they are. And this is one of the very rare shots of the chubby girl in the film, and the poor thing is shown just stuffing her face full of popcorn. You know what? Now that I'm rewatching this for a second time, I think I can clearly see why this movie has such a low rating on Douban with audiences, because I think they wanted something a little bit more action-packed and a little bit more exciting than what's going on. But you got to set the tension. You got to start it by doing something. I don't know how this guy is even thinking about trying to get comfortable in that seat, but here we go. Look at that. He's just got the same text message that the character on the screen just received. And I have to say, whoever subtitled this film, thank you for actually subtitling the text message, because a lot of Chinese movies I watch, regardless of whether they're big cinematic movies or shitty web movies, don't subtitle things like that. So it is actually nice that someone's actually gone to the effort of subtitling an actual part of the movie that's important, and that is the text message. Imagine being in the cinema watching a movie and everything's happening. What's happening on screen is almost identical to what's happening in the hall with you. So now this makes a bit more sense. So they're watching a silent film. So now it makes a bit more sense why the woman was saying, I can hear this baby. This is their second interaction, these two. Now you'd think he'd be making more noise now, ruining his own recording. Would you do that? You've got a random who's been in the cinema with you, who's telling you, come, meet me outside. You wouldn't go with him. You wouldn't go with it. And he walks in front of his own camera at that point. I suppose he's probably thinking, look, my recording's stuffed. But, don't walk in front of your own camera that you're using to bootleg the film. And look at the posters in the background. We can see they're very old, classic posters. It should be a hint about the kind of cinema that they're in. They must have looked long and hard to find a location like this. And always, when I see stuff like this, I just think, what the hell is on those walls? Why are they so grimy and dirty? Doesn't anyone maintain anything? That seems to be a poster of Audrey Hepburn in the background as well. Pretty sure that is. I tell you, I don't miss the days of people just being able to smoke indoors like this. Imagine just lighting up in the cinema. That's an unprovoked attack. Completely unprovoked. Hitting him with a claw hammer for no apparent reason. Although I suppose he thinks he's being a bit aggrieved by his aggressiveness. You are ruining the movie for everyone by talking. And the irony of that, of me talking and ruining this movie for you. However, you're around 22, 23 minutes in. And if you're still sticking with me, it's because you do want to hear me talk bullshit about this movie while we're watching it. So I appreciate you hanging back. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your liking the video. Appreciate your subscription if you're new. I plan to do a lot more of these audio commentaries. I don't know the order in which they will be released. So this may actually be the first one, even though I've already recorded a couple. This might actually be the first one that gets released. I have a Japanese movie as well that I look at. A lot of Chinese horror movies that I find very interesting that I would just love to talk about. And I think we will go live in the future with a couple of the movies, just so I can get some comments. But in the meantime, before we go live, just try and build up a bit of an appetite for these commentaries, so that we can get a good enough audience and a good enough live chat going and really enjoy the film. I think one of them that I do want to look at will be The Curse of Bisian. It'll be the fourth time I've watched that film, which is about the Pen Fairy taking on Kayako from The Grudge. It is as terrible as it sounds, and I can't believe I'll want to watch it a fourth time, but I'll do it. I'll do it for this. I need to cough. Excuse me. This guy keeps receiving these text messages on his phone, and he's wondering, what the hell's going on. So he starts to explore a bit of the cinema. Now, it's funny because the guy who's narrating everything to his wife mentions that they're going to go. He's probably heading to the washroom or the toilet. Check out the toilet when we get there. It's not good. Hold on. Now they're saying there's 9 people there. Maybe I miscounted. Maybe there really is 9. That would probably make more sense, actually. Good one for paying attention there, Dan. Good one. He's clearly going to go into... Just looking at those walls in the background, look at how grimy and disgusting everything is. What do you think the toilet's going to look like? It's not going to be pretty. And this guy, wearing his perfectly pressed, perfectly clean white shirt, in an environment like that, I don't know, buddy. It's not something I would be doing. Let's just look at it. Just look at it. Look at the tiles on the left-hand side. This would give me the utter creeps if I was to ever walk in on something like this. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I have. I've been to China quite a few times, and yeah, you don't always get the porcelain treatment. When you're there, there are some really dicey places to relieve yourself. And this, don't think I've ever actually been in anything this bad, but I've been in some shockers. Some real shockers. There was a stadium in Dalian, which is in north of China, that I went to one night to see a dress rehearsal for something. I don't know what the hell it was. And I remember being in the men's room and the smell hits you. So look who's back. The smell hits you in most men's rooms, I think, but in China it just hits you worse. This guy seems to have come back alive, although seriously, just a simple little claw hammer hit to the face clearly wasn't going to be enough to keep him down. But he's gone to the toilet to get his revenge on him. What a sweet revenge it seems to be getting. Oh shit. I think you've killed him. Maybe he's just unconscious. Either way, with a toilet like that, ugh. I mean, now he's leaning up against the tiles. Just want to get a pressure cleaner and just start pressure cleaning those tiles, but they'll probably all fall apart as soon as the water hits them. So the reality of what he's just done has kicked in. I've just killed a guy in a toilet, and it wasn't a sexual encounter. That's not going to look good on me and my bootlegging DVD business. And I do love the fact that he's acknowledged that he is the camera guy. No one bats an eyelid. And there is another movie set in the cinema from Thailand called Coming Soon that has almost has a similar kind of idea where the guy is bootlegging the movie in the cinema. Is it that pervasive? Especially 10 or so years ago in... I hate to pick on you, Asia, but is that pervasive in Asia that people just don't bat an eyelid to someone who rocks up with a handy cam to record a film? And we can see from that shot, the 6 of them, he makes 7, the chubby girl makes 8, and so the phone guy who's looking for the Monkey King makes 9. Now he has decided, you know what, this movie's not worth my time. I think I'll just try and GTFO. But someone was in the toilets recording the entire thing. I do love the look on his face here. That look of astonishment. What I do like about the footage here is that it is presented the exact same way that we've seen it, which means that there was multiple cameras in that toilet filming this encounter that no one saw. It's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine when movies show security footage, and it's so well edited and from many different angles, and you think, but in real life it would just be one angle. Now, surprise, guess who's not dead? Guess who is not dead? WTF is happening tonight. I need to cough again. It's not the COVIDs, don't worry. I've already had that. It's just a cough. Dude sits down. Nothing changed. Except he's probably thinking now, shit, I've stopped this recording. How am I going to make my DVD money now? But it's one of those instances you think, oh my god, am I seeing a ghost? Is this guy a ghost? Well, you're in a Chinese horror movie. I hate to tell you, there are no ghosts. There are no ghosts at all. One thing, though, is that this guy has not learnt his lesson and is still on his fucking telephone. Get off the phone, mate. The tension is palpable. This guy, it's some nice little effects there, hey. It's all a dream. It's all a dream. Or was it? And I can probably start seeing why the 2.8 rating out of 10 is getting a bit justified, because some of these things start to be a little hard to explain what's going on. So he's now had an epiphany. He's like, well, I had a dream. It felt very prophetic. I better go check that the guy's still dead. Maybe he woke up and walked out. Maybe the police found him. He would have had police tape there by now. Well, that's a surprise. I don't think any of us saw that coming, did we? We were not expecting an empty toilet. Seems like the guy did come back alive. Even after he did the nose test, though. He put his hand under his nose to check that there was no... Oh, gross. Oh, do we have to look at these bits? There was no air coming out of his nose. Imagine being in the toilet in the cinema and you're needing to take a shit during the film, and these 3 cubicles is what you're presented with. You're just noping the fuck out of that. You're just like, nah, I'm not taking a dump in this toilet. In fact, I'd be pretty cautious about taking a piss in these toilets too, to be honest. Only because now I know that there's a dead guy somewhere in there, and I'm not sure whether the dead guy is going to come back alive and get me. And I suspiciously look like this guy, don't I? Fat, bald, and fat, and bald. I only grew a beard to differentiate myself from him, but I think him and I are suspiciously look-alike. Tell me in the comments if you agree. But I just checked that cubicle and he wasn't in there. Well, he was. And to this point, he starts thinking, really, what the flying fuck is going on? And who is this ghost? Luckily for the 7 remaining audience members, they don't need to guess what's happened, because everything's playing out on the screen for them. Now, this auger, and I probably should have taken a chance to Google that while we've been watching it, but I didn't. Now seems to have successfully predicted the disappearance of the 2 audience members. The camera guy and the mobile guy. And the guard is playing his Jenga. Here's another one on the mobile phone. This one, she clearly cannot get over her boyfriend. And it appears that she seems to be using some kind of Facebook imitation. So this must have been at a time when Facebook was not banned in China. And she was able to use Facebook in China. Which now makes me wonder if this movie is banned in China because it actually shows what appears to look like Facebook. This guy can't help himself. He just thinks, oh yeah, she's a pretty face. I've just screwed a married woman. I can probably screw this chick too. She's smart though. She's seen creeps like him before. What a wonderful head of hair that you've got there, buddy. I am jealous. And probably Mr. Baldy camera guys probably also jealous of you too. Ooh, we get a couple of crawling ghosts. Can thank the ring for that. Everyone seems to think that's what a ghost in Asia looks like. So now, I'm going to call them grifters. I believe they're grifters. I don't actually believe he actually seems to have any kind of talent. Seems like they are going on a hunt. He noticed his t-shirt, the guy in the green. It is the 8 diagram. What's that called? Something. 8 diagram of the pole fighter or whatever it is. I don't know if this is a proper name for it. So it's some kind of, he's trying to, make it out that he is some kind of mystical person. Mystic person. This looks like the security guard from the movie. He is now sitting there. You've got to wonder how bad is this film that no one actually wants to spend any time there. And this is also my bugbear with both the haunted cinema movies, is that everyone seems to leave the cinema easily and not watch the film that they're there to watch. Now, if you're paying attention, how many times does that this is her third appearance in the movie now. She's really, as I said, she really gets a short end of the stick in this movie, this poor girl. Hardly see much of her at all. And it's always the most unflattering having your face just stuffed full of popcorn. Her spider senses are tingling clearly, and she can tell that there are people missing. But he's told her, he's lied to her and said that there are 9 people in the hall. But she clearly knows that there's not. But as we can see, he doesn't want to leave because he can see what's happening on the screen. He obviously thinks this is something a bit more interesting than what he's telling her. And this is probably one of those times where you're thinking, shit, you know what? I'm stuck with this guy because he is my eyes. He is literally my eyes. Now, this little girl, maybe it's just a whole... I don't know, maybe there are just several actresses who kind of look very similar to her, but she does seem very familiar. And, of course, in the cast list, she's not listed. Well, at least on the Dorbar list, she's not listed. So it's kind of hard to follow up kind of who she would be. Unless it's this girl. There is a girl that's popped up here. She said she was born in 97. This movie's 2015. Should be 18, so it's not that girl. I think this one I'm looking at here is the someone else that you'll meet later on in the movie. And we are almost at the halfway point of the movie, not counting the film's end credits. And in the film that they're watching, the lady's little daughter has run out. Even in the film that they're watching of that's set in the cinema that they are in, the walls are grimy. The only real difference is it appears that the movie posters are actually put on the wall properly and don't look damaged. So you can see now when he goes through this shot, the posters are damaged. But when she was going through it, they were there. So in the movie, the lady and the daughter are clearly references to this guy and his partner. And it makes me wonder now I've seen this movie the second time if I've really understood the movie at all. I think I did. Look, I know what happens in the end. And the more I watch it, the more I do start to think, yeah, this 2.8 is probably justified. And maybe my thinking that this was such a great film possibly isn't an accurate memory. Because people keep leaving the cinema because no one's clearly interested in watching this film. And if you're still watching it, thank you for sticking around. I hope you're having a bit of fun. I hope you're enjoying this commentary. I hope you're enjoying the film. Probably not enjoying the film. And maybe this is not the best example of a film I should have done first up, but I'm just kind of waiting for a couple of things to happen on a few other films, and we're going to look at some. We're going to look at some batshit insane Chinese horror movies, and also some freaking boring ones too. That is mystifying that they can get away with calling themselves horror films sometimes. And I hope to actually get Ghost in Barbers up very soon, and that we can watch that one, because that probably is my all-time favorite. And I need to check whether we can do Bunshin Saba versus Sadako 2. Because that, in all honesty, that is probably one of the best Chinese horror films. One of the best silly Chinese horror films out there. I hope that we're going to look at Haunted Road, which is actually a really good horror film in this series. I don't think creepy, like hands like that, will ever not be creepy. It does kind of remind me of the Addams Family and The Thing from the Addams Family. And now I've got the bloody Addams Family theme song stuck in my head. What's the saying? Art imitates life, imitates art. I didn't fart, that was my chair. Trust me, that was my chair. You know what, lady? It's a pretty remarkable hand if you think that he touched you from all the way back there. They're all so into this movie. Like, the ones who are still there are still so into this film. But in reality, what are you getting into? Now, you should be on the screen watching the creepy hand touching that guy. And if you see the creepy hand happening behind you, actually, now that I think of it, you probably just do think that the idiot behind is just playing a prank on you. But there he is with his awesome hair and his goofball-looking face. Clearly thinking about what he would do to this chick. And she's clearly thinking about what she would do to him, only it's a different kind of category. She's probably planning on how to remove the head from his body. But now he thinks that's an in for him. I've actually never noticed that he had a band-aid on his head either. Now, does anyone remember there being a candy bar or anything like that in this cinema? And he's gone out to get a couple of bottles of Coca-Cola for them to enjoy together. I saw you were alone. Yeah, well, I don't think she wants to spend time with you. For those Apple aficionados out there, check out that very early model iPhone from 2014. I remember, when did I go first time to China? It's probably 2010. I had an iPhone 3, and I was told at the time, be careful with it, Dan, because it's a very desirable product and it might get stolen from you. And I got to China and literally, and I hate the word literally every second person had a flippin' iPhone. So who's going to steal my iPhone when everyone else already had one? Sorry, now back to the film. What the hell are these two doing? They're starting to pash on for some reason. Hashtag what's going on here? I don't know whether this is real or if someone's dreaming this. But you can clearly see that his hands are elsewhere, that they're not touching your leg. Great special effects. It's a bit of a tease, isn't it? Ah, there you go. She's just using it to get back at her ex. Record me pashing on and send it to the ex. I'm over you. That's what that text was. Has it ever worked? I doubt it. I doubt that's ever worked at all. It's such an ornate looking foyer. I'm actually convinced that this is not actually a cinema. At least that foyer is probably not the cinema. And in fact, this looks like some kind of gym or theatre that this particular bit is shot in. I doubt very highly this is an actual cinema. It's more like some kind of auditorium, which might go a long way in explaining the shittiness of all the facilities, including the ladies' room. Doesn't look that great either. Doors are slightly less grimy, but still grimy nonetheless. She has some real issues here. Now, she does not seem like the type that would sit on something dirty, but yet here she is sitting on the crapper in a place that has pretty awful environment. And yeah, I'd be freaked out too if I was sitting on the crapper. Although in her case, she's not actually doing anything. She's literally just sitting on the crapper, looking at photos of her ex, making herself sick with worry. And the light goes out. I don't think I'd like that either. I keep sinking in my chair. What's going on here? I don't want to sit back up because it's getting a bit comfortable there. And as they say, as Queen said it, another one bites dust. Back to business. He really does kind of know what's going on, doesn't he? Now that's a bit unique. Hey, what's there a little girl running through the cinema? That should not be happening. Now, kind of that, some of the geography here doesn't quite seem to work out, and that's what appears to be. Oh, what is that character? Is that character for woman? On that door? Jeepers, I don't even know my own Chinese. It's very simple characters for men and women. Pretty sure that's woman. I'd be starstruck if I was you. You've got a celebrity here. You've got the girl from the movie is in the cinema. And she's playing hide and seek with you, buddy. And as a grown male, the fact that she's gone into that room should be a good indication that you should not be going in that room. And of course, against all of his better judgments, he goes into the room. Mate, this is not going to end well for you. Do not go in there. You've committed now. You're in. It is just a vile looking room. And for those who are a bit more acute with the viewing, it does seem to be the same male or female room. They do seem to be shot in the same room. It's always that third door, isn't it? Every time they open that third door, something happens. Just to let you know, we're now 51 minutes through the movie. If you're still around, you are awesome. Thank you. Don't forget to like the video. Don't dislike it. Just like it. Come on. What's the purpose of disliking it? Unless you dislike the movie. But by that stage, you've probably flicked it off by now. So just like it. Just give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you haven't got an ad blocker on, so you've watched at least one or two ads. At least I can get a little bit of money for this. And certainly I do want to, like I said, I do want to do more of them. But I probably picked a bad one to start with. It's just far too slow. Far too slow. And I don't know if I can have the audio loud enough that you'll be able to hear some of the background. Ooh, there's a ghost. I don't know whether it was that scary that you'd just drop your lighter like that. So, a bit of a head count now. These two, plus Casanova, plus Chubby Girl. He's calling him a pimp. I like that one. And I believe by saying business, he keeps referring to either needing to go to the toilet. Now, these two are supposed to be a metaphor for the blind woman and the guy. So now in the movie, they're back in the cinema. Which then means that the blind guy and his partner should be back in the cinema, but of course they're not. And again, this whole concept of smoking. Just smoking like that. And everyone's just smoking. Like, how pervasive is smoking? People just do it so openly and brazenly like that. And I have to admit, it's wearing a pretty awful top. It's some kind of tiger, leopard face. I mean, it's not like I wear the best clothes. Look, I've got a t-shirt that says Chimmy on it, which apparently is some kind of BTS bullshit. I didn't even know this until... Funny story. I actually bought this t-shirt from Uniqlo because I thought it looked good. I thought it had a nice pattern on it. Chimmy. I didn't know what Chimmy was. You wear it around and you don't pay any attention to it. And I remember getting some funny stares about this t-shirt, but nothing beyond the normal. Until I was at a barbecue one day with a friend. That's chubby appearance number 4. That's it. 54 minutes. And pimp guy thinks, yep, I want to get my dick wet. Not going to get the hot chick. I might as well try the fat chick. So it was at this barbecue, and my friend's daughter, who would have been 11 or 12, she turns to me and she goes, "Do you like BTS?" And I looked at her and said, "I don't even know who that is." She goes, "Then why are you wearing their t-shirt?" And I just thought, oh, fuck it. You know what? I'm committed now to wearing this t-shirt for life or until it dies. I'll just wear the whole BTS thing. Then Little found out that the second t-shirt they have that says no milk on it is some character called Shuki. And this is the first revelation here. The chubby girl has actually started to put some of the clues together. So she said to him that he tried hitting on her 5 years ago in the cinema. And so now, I don't know if the movie's starting to make any sense to you yet. It's probably not. 55 minutes in, there's still, according to the player, 27 minutes takeaway credits, 24 minutes of the film left. Some of the clues should start coming together now about what's actually going on in this movie. So we've now established that the chubby girl and the pimp have met each other 5 years prior in the cinema as well, where he also tried to hit on her, probably while she was stuffing her face with what appears to be a never-ending box of popcorn, because again, she's also been watching this movie for about 50 minutes and she's still stuffing her face full of popcorn. And having said that, I wish I could eat some popcorn right now, but then it would be too salty and I would drink too much. Cheers. So anyway, as we keep excruciatingly look at some of the footage from this film, I do just want to tell you what's going on. But I don't think it's fair. It's not fair. I can't tell you what's going on. Have you worked it out? What do you think's going on? Unless you're the person who's recommended this movie to me, of course you know what happens at the end. Or if you've seen this film as well. It's not a particularly easy film to find, although I'm probably, everything's on YouTube, so I'm pretty sure you could probably find it on YouTube if your Google Foo is good enough. You can now find it now once I've uploaded this. Unfortunately, me talking in the background, but hey, it's still Admission by Guts in its full. Yes, that goes. Now, I believe that is the 18-year-old actress that I was looking up before that I thought might have been the other chick, but you can just see that Popcorn Girl, it just does not want to budge from her seat. Even once there is a ghost in the cinema. A ghost that appears to be the sister of Sadako, because they all look the same, don't they? They all have to look the same. White dress, long hair, grey skin. And just for all those epileptics out there, they decide to start flashing the lights. So, hey, not as bad as the epileptic type flashing, but yeah, thanks. Good one. Eight diagram. That's what it is. Did I say that before? There's a lot of martial arts movies based on it. Excuse me. This is kind of clever. So they're using the fact that the lights keep blinking in the cinema, and they're using it as a way to change camera angles. I think that's clever. As someone who wants to make movies in the future and has studied filmmaking intricately and appreciated the art of filmmaking, not to the level of accented cinema level of filmmaking, but someone who does appreciate cinema. I do like the fact that they are editing on the flashes of the lights, or back in that scene anyway, to give you completely different angles. It really kind of builds up a bit of tension. It looked good. I admit it looked good. And there's not much in this movie that looks good. And you know what? Yeah, the more I watched it, the more this 2.8 rating is really starting to make a lot of sense. And now I'm starting to think, why the hell did I think so highly of the film 3 years ago when I first watched it? I was clearly not thinking straight. So these guys are trying to escape from what they think is a ghost. And they seem to have made their way up to the top level of the cinema hall, which I think is some kind of office for the complex. Now, I don't know enough about ghosts. I've only ever met one in my life. I'll tell you that story in another video. But I'm pretty sure that they'll find you regardless of if you go shh. I'm sure the ghost is a little bit smarter than that and can find you regardless of whether you're saying shh or not. Could you imagine wearing that top out in public? Probably as bad as wearing this top out in public. Yeah, who am I to talk, eh? Just, who am I to talk? I better get... Because if you're watching it, my framing looks terrible. See, this is me about filmmaking. My framing looks terrible. I keep sinking in the picture. Hopefully this is still working, picking me up. Where are we now? We finally hit the 1 hour mark. If you are still watching this, you are a Dead Set legend. If you're enjoying any parts of this movie, you're just a sadist like me. A progressive, he just doesn't have a mobile phone. Even in 2015, like, who's not using a mobile phone in 2014? Excuse me. Now, the more I watch this, the more I really... It does really take a long time for the whole movie to kind of unravel and to tell the audience what is going on. So we know there's no ghosts. We know that because I've told you at the start, Chinese cinema doesn't allow ghosts. So what they're seeing is clearly not a ghost, but something else. There's no supernatural, there's no violence. So a lot of the things that have happened, you've got to start to think, well, they haven't actually happened. Because that's the rules of Chinese cinema. And in fact, I'm pretty sure one of the movies we do watch in this series, if we do end up watching The Curse of BCN, a character actually does die, which is very unusual for a Chinese horror film to have a character that actually dies. So yeah, you've got to start putting those clues together. You've got the ghosts not real, and no one should be dead according to the rules. And here we go. We're starting to get an actual explanation of what they're all doing there. So it wasn't random. The 8 of them or 9 of them weren't selected by some random draw. They have all been explicitly targeted for the event. They are there for a reason. Do you know what that reason is yet? You probably don't, because it hasn't really given any clues about that. So in the hands of probably a better script writer, no restrictions on content, I think there's the potential for an actual good movie out of this. It's just a bit of a shame that, again, it's a bit of a shame you've got all those restrictions and everything in Chinese cinema. That kind of stops everything. So now they are looking at a newspaper article about a cinema that caught on fire 5 years ago. And these two realize that they were in the cinema at that time. And of course, the chubby chick was also there because she says, no, I recognize you from 5 years ago. So they are looking now at everyone and realize that all 5 of them know each other. Oh, sorry, all 9 of them actually know each other from an event 5 years prior, which was a fire in the cinema. So we're starting to put a couple of clues together now. And this is what appears to be Lan Lan, the blind woman. Is the flashing, is the blinking getting it to you yet? So if this was a comedy movie, she would obviously fall ass over tit down the staircase. But this is not a comedy movie, so she won't be falling down in a hilarious fashion that makes everyone giggle with delight. So I'm not sure whether that part's lost in translation by calling it a nest, but these two have realized that they're in some kind of trap, that they're in some kind of reunion, but they probably don't quite understand why they're there, why the 9 of them are there from that particular cinema fire, and what's the significance of all 9 of them being at this place on this evening, watching a very strange looking film. And let's go on the title. Let's have a look at this title, Admission by Guts. And I've always thought this got like a double play, the title here. You can either see it as it costs you your guts to get into the cinema. Now, I don't know where you're from, but you know, for us, guts would be, you know, kind of your courage. So it's essentially telling you admission by courage, or that your guts are the cost of what you will pay to enter the cinema. Hence, admission by guts, costing you your guts. In this case, your gut being your stomach. So it's a kind of a double meaning, that title. But like I said, the movie also does go by another title, which off the top of my head I can't think of what it is, and it doesn't translate to admission by guts, obviously, from China. I believe the Chinese translation is fright cinema for the film, which is really shit. I mean, who comes up with these? Okay, maybe it's probably sounds good in Chinese, but translated into English, it's really shit. And now the movie's gone back to the start. Gone back to our original 9 cast members. Again, the poor chubby girl really has not got much screen time in this film. And so have you worked out what's going on in the movie yet? We're 1 hour 8. There's still about 10, 11, 12 minutes of the actual film left. The reveal is about to occur. Did you see this coming? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 actual people there now. So we've got the Monkey King, the DV camera guy. We've got the sexy girl, the husband, the skinny guy, and the chubby girl, the pimp. So we're missing the guy with the green top, the ogre, and we're missing the blind woman. And so now the truth will be revealed to the audience. The ghost that you've seen around is actually... It's a mask. It's a good old-fashioned mask face-off reveal. The fatty fell to death, so he won't be joined. So there's a dead character now. So, I tell a lie. People do die in Chinese horror movies. So. So this is the big reveal of Admission by Guts. Let's just watch what happened.
5年前，我和我的妹妹相依为命。
Excuse me. So if you're struggling to follow the subtitles, this guy is a projectionist in a cinema, and this is his sister. And so part of what they would do to bond, there was only the two of them. Their parents are dead. So they would watch movies after school and spend all their time together as brother and sister. So he worked in this cinema in the projection booth. And then these 9 came to watch a movie one night. An old classic horror movie. It doesn't make sense for the bootlegger why he would be there. Why would he be? But here we go. They're all horror fans, and again, this is probably where he got all their number from. It's clearly some kind of, they're part of some horror troupe, audience, film buffs. Sister was there in the cinema with them. And tragedy strikes. The cinema catches on fire. And of course, in a typical rush of panic, no one helps anyone. Everyone just kind of looks out for themselves. The effects are pretty bad here, as you can probably see. They don't look the best. And I really fail to believe that if the girl was like that no one would come and save her. So it's a little bit unbelievable. But here we are. So she dies in the fire. I believe she dies in the fire. Yes. And so now he, as the projectionist, has decided to get his revenge. Revenge is actually approved as a Chinese, as an ending for Chinese cinema. Revenge. So he can get his revenge on everyone who has wronged him and taken away his sister. I have to say that's quite a grudge you're holding against 9 strangers for 5 years, but it is what it is. And it really is. You can see that he's just said my hatred's unchanged. He really has held a grudge for 5 years. What are we looking at? About 20 minutes to go? Not 10 minutes to go? Like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to keep up to date with Artie Danz's latest film commentaries. I'll be trying even to sneak in an Indonesian horror movie, I think. If I can find one, good one. What about if we try throw in a Myanmar or Thai? Yeah, let's go the full gamut. It doesn't always have to be Chinese. But we'll start off with the Chinese ones. Have you liked it? Have you subscribed yet? Have you bootlegged this commentary, bootlegged this movie, and then put them together on a DVD and sold it on the streets of Asia for $1? God, I remember that. This used to be so much fun. As a movie lover, going to Asian countries, Thailand, Indonesia, China, and just buying movies really cheap. God, that is fun. Was fun. This whole eye for an eye concept, I'm not exactly sold on. But you know, it is what it is. Pour petrol over people, set them on fire. It doesn't discriminate. Oh, so he's thinking he's a good guy because he's let the disabled woman go. Apparently she lost her eyesight in the fire. That's interesting. Didn't know you could lose your eyesight in a fire. There we go. Oh, he got a lot of petrol poured on him. See, compared to him, he got a lot poured on him. Geez, even she got a lot poured on her. That's a little bit unfair. She was just busy eating. I don't think she had any malice in leaving your sister behind. I don't think I could blame her. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Is the blind girl going to come in and save the day? Or is Scarface about to make a barbecue? Well, we can see that something's about to happen. And it is Fatty, who you all thought was dead because you said he was dead. I'd probably be trying to blow out that match, though, before it actually does ignite something. But must have gone on its way out. Really, I don't think you've killed him with just one kind of whack to the head. So there he is. It's not quite yet. No, we've still got a couple of minutes to go. But that was Admission by Guts. Fright Cinema. Did you see the ending coming? Does it surprise you? Do you feel cheated in your time that you've watched this film, knowing that you've had to listen to me bullshit for an hour and 20 minutes? Do you think that you want to watch more Chinese horror movies? Because I'm telling you, in the grand scheme of things, this is mediocre in that level, but they don't get too much better than this, but they do get a lot worse. They do get a lot worse than this. We are going to look at some of that are sitting in a lot worse category than this film. That's a nice little sweet ending. They bought a grave for her so that he has something to go to on the anniversary of her death. It's a very saccharine ending, though. I mean, this guy's just about to create a barbecue with you. He's poured enough petrol on a few of you to, you know, and considering the price of petrol now, geez, you wouldn't be wanting to waste it like that and not get your money's worth by setting someone on fire. Anyway, it's probably not cool to say that. I've completely lost what I was going to say. Holy shit. It's the downside of getting old. They've apologized to him. This is your Chinese government ending kind of kicking in here, going, yeah, everything has to end hunky-dory, fucking great ending, no one's dead, everyone says sorry. Excuse me, yada, yada, yada. I fucking never said yada, yada, yada. I didn't fart, that was the chair. 1 week later, Chen Xiaogang turned himself into the police and started his path of self-redemption. These are, I love these end title cards. They have to add to movies to kind of make it out like, you know, there are consequences, people. The way the Chinese government treats its citizens, that they're all fucking idiots who don't know how to. Actually, they call pirate in the NC the credits. The guy's called Pirate. The other one's called Fatty Girl. And Lottle Girl. So they've spelt Little Girl wrong. But the Chinese government just does not have enough faith in its citizens that it knows right from wrong, that it has to tell you in a movie what happens. And again, if we get an opportunity to look at Painted Mask, not the Donnie Yen movie, something else, that has all these end cards, all this bullshit on it, as if it was a real story. that people believed. All of these kind of, this is what happens to this person. This is what happens to this person. In fact, the very first Infernal Affairs movie, the Hong Kong film, that's what happened to the ending in mainland China. They kind of cut the Hong Kong and world ending, and the director, I should know the name of the director, but I can't think of it, was so pissed off that he had to do it. He did not give a shit about having to shoot a special ending just for China, that I think he just threw up these kind of dumb shit end cards. And that kind of trope's stuck in Chinese cinema now, that, you know, these complex explanations are just explained by a series of cards that people do not read because they're leaving the cinema, which is kind of clever from the filmmakers. So we've got 2 minutes to go. I'm going to keep going until the end of the credits for this particular movie. It's got quite a long end credit sequence, which is really weird. There's clearly a budget with this film. So what did you think of Admission by Guts? Did you think it was a brave film? Did you think it was a good film? The answer is no, and the 2.8 that it's got on Dolban is a clear representation that it was not a good film. And my memory of the film was very much clouded by something else, and I don't know why I thought this was such a great film. Having said that, though, I think if you're watching this without me in the background constantly talking, and you can get into the movie by putting it on a big screen and putting the volume up and kind of getting immersed in the sound and the atmosphere, may actually be, pretty good. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed it, because I probably watched it like that and enjoyed the film like that. Is this the best Chinese movie set in a cinema? Probably. Because Haunted Cinema 1's a bit crap, and Haunted Cinema 2's ridiculous. But at least it's fun ridiculous, and a lot of shit happens in Haunted Cinema. And again, I'm really pissed that I can't show you Haunted Cinema. I really wish that was a movie that we could cover in this series. So, with a minute to go, I will thank you again for sticking with me for almost 1 hour and 25 minutes. To watch Admission by Guts, the only commentary of this movie on YouTube, I hope, because I hope no one else is stupid enough to have done this. If you like the movie, please press the like button. Tune in every week to my This Week in Horror special, where I take 4 horror movies and kind of give my very Australian opinion on the film. There's something interesting. It says a Tibet Film and Television Development there. Otherwise, I really do hope you've enjoyed watching the movie with me this evening or this afternoon, or whenever you're actually watching this film, whether you with this video, whether you watched it when I premiered it, or whether you watched it a couple of years in the future. If it's 2016, give me a yell in the comments that you're watching this film. Otherwise, 2016, 2026. Otherwise, this has been Admission by Guts. I'm the Artie Dans. Thank you, and I'll catch you next time.